Hello and welcome to the Grand Cinema Hotel, a podcast hosted by two friends who love cinema. I'm Alfred and I'm joined by my co-host Gus. Tonight you'll be staying in room 156, Banshees of Inisherin, an Irish dark comedy directed by Martin McDonagh. So go ahead, get comfortable and throw on that do not disturb sign as we witness an island-bound friendship take a dark turn with Banshees of Inisherin.
Now, if I've done something to you, just tell me what I've done to you.
When you didn't do anything to me. I just don't like you no more.
You liked me yesterday.
What's going on, all my lonely people, and thank you for checking back in to the Grand Cinema Hotel. I'm Gus, and today we will be talking about a very, very special film, one of our favorites of the year, The Banshees of Inisherin. I'm joined by Alvaro. Say what's up, bro.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, we're talking about a really, really good film. We were just talking right now off mic. This is both of one of our favorites of the year, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
You saw this before I did. How have you felt now that you've had some time to sit with this movie? What have you seen it like 2 or 3 times now?
3 times actually.
Okay. Super fan.
Finally, yeah. This is finally one of the ones that I've watched more than once that is actually really worth watching more than
Just
once.
beat out the Batman and everywhere
Exactly.
all at once.
Like, this is the other one where this beat out Thor, Love and Thunder, and Black Panther, and all the Marvel movies. But but that obviously is on the back end of it being already available on VOD, which is another thing. If you listen to this episode and you haven't seen the movie, this is available on HBO now, so very worth it. So the first time I walked out of this movie, I didn't know what to expect when I initially heard of the movie. I heard a lot of the praise that it was getting in the festival circuit. That doesn't mean much sometimes, but it definitely caught my attention because Colin Farrell's been having an outstanding year. So when I walked out of this movie, I did really enjoy what I had seen, and then I didn't think it would. I guess I was really taken away by how sad and moody this movie is, yet at the same time, I don't really think it tries to get too deep into things, and I think that lives in a very unique space. And the more I ended up thinking about this movie, the more I thought it was well made, and how tight the story is, and just relatable, honestly.
So when you say it doesn't go that deep, not to tell you what you think, obviously, but do you mean, because this is how what I take away from the movie, is that we're dealing with a character, because these people are on an island, because of who these characters are, that they're very repressed people. So it's not that they don't have these feelings, it's that they just don't feel comfortable sharing them, or they feel very, alone and isolated. Because that's what I took away from the movie, of why it doesn't really go so deep.
Yeah, I would say it's not like these people are, they don't have the answers to the reasons they feel this way. And I think the movie really, the characters show that. And I think it's more a meditation on, your place in the world and what it is to actually have quote unquote worth. But I don't think it necessarily provides you with this in-depth analysis with answers on it. I just think it's a heavy theme that plays throughout the film. But at the same time, it is just, I just think it's funny because we talked about on the count of 3 before this, but it is a buddy film at the end of the day. And it just kind of turning south.
Yeah, 2 separate types of buddy films for sure.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed this movie. I felt kind of the same way that you did, where I didn't know what to really expect. I do like Martin McDonagh's. I like 2 of the 3 films that I've seen. He's only made 4 movies in total, and a short film that got I think it won an Academy Award for a short, or it was nominated or something or other. And he's also very successful on the stage. So he's one of those rare breeds. Another person I could think of who's currently working is, and someone we talked about was Tony Kushner, who wrote The Fabelmans with Steven Spielberg. He's kind of in that same
field work
air. You know what I mean? Where they're very successful in both worlds, which is not easy to do. So to be so good at not just one, but both aspects of storytelling. It's fascinating stuff. I don't it's hard to say if I really like Three Billboards Outside of Ebbings, Missouri, whatever that movie's called.
Yeah.
We've watched it. I've watched it once. I watched it with you when it first came out, and it wasn't that I didn't like it, but it didn't really stick with me that much. It felt just kind of like a Coen Brothers like type movie, you know, where
I can see that.
it didn't feel like the most, I don't know, it just didn't really jive with me. It wasn't something that I've really taken with me, you know, like I remember, you know, we remember the movies we really like, and that's one where I'm just kind of like, yeah, I remember that movie. But his other film, In Bruges, which was his first team up with these two actors, fantastic movie. It feels like a great companion piece to this movie. So when he has this trio going of him, Colin Farrell, and Brendan Gleeson, I'm there for it. It works extremely well. I would say these two actors have amazing chemistry. I saw they were on Stephen Colbert together. And just even that chemistry that they have, like they're like Laurel and Hardy or something like that. You know, they're finishing each other's sentences. They have just this really good rapport. So I enjoyed them quite a bit in this movie. They're the heavy lifters, but we also have two other really, really good performances in this movie.
I did check out the featurette after watching the movie that HBO had, and just Martin McDonagh talking about how ever since In Bruges, he really just wanted to get that chemistry back on set for a film, and that they really respect each other, Colin and his name,
Brendan Gleeson?
Brendan Gleeson, yeah. They really just respect each other, and they're good friends. And I think, again, that's kind of what's similar to a lot of the movies we end up really liking, but the chemistry here for a movie that is just so heavy on like character studies, I think that's why it delivers really well.
And two of the other, performances that I had mentioned, this movie is just filled with a really, really strong cast,
yeah.
right? So it's Carrie Condon, and she plays Colin Farrell's sister, and then Barry Keoghan is here to do his thing.
His thing.
His thing. He's only in about like 13 minutes of this movie I've seen, but that's a powerful 13 minutes. He's very captivating screen presence, and he always bats 1,000 too. Like I know exactly what I'm gonna get from him. And I'm like, oh, he did it again. He did the thing where he played the weird little guy.
Yep.
And it was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
And he makes
and he's so funny in this film, while also being a deeply sad character. And that's a theme in Martin McDonagh's work from the 3 films that I have seen. This like tragically comedic sad people, with the and it's just really fun to watch. I don't know many other directors who are making movies this exact way. I would say I think of only the Coen brothers as kind of being a similar line. I mean, I hope that's not offensive to some people, to invoke the Coen brothers when I'm mentioning Martin McDonagh.
I don't think so.
I do kind of see that same just, dark black comedy,
because that
coming
was
out of these two filmmakers.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. But what I was gonna say that's interesting too is this movie didn't get beat over the head with me with trailers. I didn't see much of it. But then even when I would watch the trailers, I was, after knowing what the synopsis of the story was wondering what would really make this movie as great as people were talking about that it was. And I didn't really see where that would necessarily come from, like what would elevate it to do so. And I think again, this is just a perfect reflection of it being in the perfect hands, because based on the cast, such a strong cast, and what the script is trying to evoke in terms of emotions, I think is what the story is. Very simple, but I don't think it could really be done this well.
You see, the story, I do think it's obviously a simple story. It's two people who are no longer friends anymore, and the repercussions that come with that. But I couldn't help but feel like this felt like some kind of old like folktale or allegory for like some kind of story you would tell children about ending friendships, to try to scare them, like, mate, this isn't a good idea or whatever. And the whole movie just feels kind of mythic. I don't know if it's this beautiful setting in Ireland, or just that it's a period piece, or even like how drastic these circumstances become, even though it's a very small story. But the world was built in such a way that it's like it feels so epic, even though it's the tiniest little story. Like, you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. Because I will say, not to get ahead of myself a little too much. I guess it's a slight spoiler and stuff, but there, there's like this I guess this mythic or this special type of point of view that we see somebody like Van Gogh who doesn't have an ear, right? And it's like seen very artistic, and it's seen as almost, I can't believe he did that. And I think this movie for some reason evokes that to me too. Like I think some of the things that happen here seem very at the top, very surface level, but they kind of play onto things that are a lot deeper, and they almost feel like, why would a normal person do that? But then you kind of think about the examples of representation of these themes that all of these imagery creates, and it almost feels lighthouse-ish. Like, I guess like what you're saying. Like I agree with you in terms of kind of the same, almost like a step back from what Lamb felt like too. Not, it doesn't necessarily has the actual superficial type of creature in it, but I think maybe because it's in a very a place that was created for this film, not a real place, but it seems like it was a real place.
Yeah, it's set on a fictional island in 1923. The backdrop is the Irish Civil War. I mean, once you've seen the movie, you realize it's very symbolic of the plot of what's going on. We're currently watching the movie. It's always great to, when we can, have the movie on while we're doing the pod. I do find it a tiny bit distracting sometimes, so I don't really pay attention too much, but it caught my eye right now that Colin Farrell, he's walking on the beach. He sees the fighting going on, and he's like, good luck to you guys, whatever you're fighting about. And it's at that point in the film where he's not exactly sure why this is happening to him. And I mean, that's one of the most like surface level takes of the movie, but I just wanted to bring it up because it was right there at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it is surface level to someone like Martin McDonagh or anybody who's been in Europe, but maybe people don't know that the Irish have had these tensions. So I do think it makes sense that you would kind of just slip it. We have to bring it up, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Just kind of finishing out my overall first thoughts. This became a top fiver for me for the year, like on the first watch. Like I got home from the theater after we had seen it, and I was just kind of sitting there, like honestly buzzing. I was like, "Oh, this was good. This was really good." Wait, like, am I ready to say this? Like, is this my favorite movie of the year? And while it's not, it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. After repeated watching, I was like very excited to watch it a third time, even though I know what I'm getting myself into. Very tight film, I felt. This is gonna sound weird, but like it sounded longer. It seems longer than what it actually is, but in a good way. I seem very invested when I'm in this world. I seem very brought in by it, and I thoroughly, every time I watch it, I enjoy it more, and I think it's because I start to catch more of the comedic effects from it, and more of what things are there to make you laugh in these moments that are pretty dark, honestly.
This is our third time talking about Colin Farrell this year, right? We did the Batman, we did After Yang, and now we're doing Banshees, and he's had a hell of a year. I could see him winning Best Actor for this if they decide to go that way at the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
But, I mean, don't be surprised if he doesn't. I'm sure Sam Worthington's going to get it for his role in Avatar too.
Yeah.
Obviously. But this is my pick so far. I wonder how the reception will be to Brendan Fraser's return. Maybe he'll, who knows? But I don't see it happening twice. And the reason I say that is because I do think that Ki Kwan is going to get the Best Supporting Actor role, which could easily go to Brendan Gleeson as well. That's why I'm bringing all of this up. And so I want Ki Kwan to get Best Supporting Actor, and I want Colin Farrell to get Best Actor. So that's why I'm like, I don't see room for, I hope Brendan Fraser doesn't get it, as bad as that sounds.
I think his golden year, Colin Farrell deserved to be topped off by an award for one of the three movies, since they all seem to be so different, the roles too. You know what I mean?
Sometimes the workload goes against you, though. They're kind of like, you don't have a singular performance that we stuck to all
This year, yeah.
It's just that you've been in a lot of different things, and he's really flexed the range this year as well.
I mean, to be able to see in all of these movies his eyebrow acting, right? And it never gets old to see so much facial expression through Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell, I mean, if you look at his whole career, it's just kind of evocative of the year that he's had this year, you know?
Yeah, I mean, do you remember, because this might have been before you were really into movies, when Colin Farrell was considered already kind of a has-been, or maybe even a never was, where people were like, Colin Farrell's kind of whack?
Yeah, like it just seemed like he was supposed to be more than he was. Where's the movie? What is the movie that he's like a pretty odd villain? Like he has like a superhero villain?
No, he's in Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, I was like,
He was Grindelwald. He was the original. Grindelwald was much like Frieza, where he had many forms, and
and that he was one of them.
Yeah, Colin Farrell was the first form of Grindelwald,
I think I'm gonna see if I can.
and Mads Mikkelsen was the final form.
He's
in case
done.
anybody was curious.
He's done so many movies.
I'm the reason I say that is because I remember Colin Farrell from way back when he was in movies like SWAT and Phone Booth and stuff like that when I was like a little tiny kid.
Daredevil.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Bullseye.
His character Bullseye, and then that's what I was getting at, is because you're kind of going back to how long he's been in the. When I watched Daredevil the first time as a kid, and I recognize him even since then, because I do think he has a very unique face. Honestly, I think he has a face that is for films, and even then as a kid, I felt like he was supposed to be bigger than what he was. And now it's just because we're really into films, I do think he lives in an atmosphere in a very similar space to like Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, do you like him better than Ethan Hawke?
I think
Because
so.
I know you feel very strongly about the Before trilogy, right?
But I think so. I think
and First Reformed.
Yeah, but like I just think because Colin Farrell seems to take more low key type of roles, and I think those roles only really stand out because Colin Farrell is doing them. And even though I really like Ethan, I mean it's close, but Ethan Hawke's movies I have seen are stuff that he couldn't save it either.
Colin Farrell is too handsome to be a character actor, whereas Ethan Hawke, I think, can kind of maybe disappear a little more into his roles.
Yeah.
But I say that, maybe that's how others feel, but then the filmography doesn't back that up, Like, look at him as the Penguin. Look at him as Parrick and Podrick, whatever his name is in this movie.
Yeah.
Look at him in After Yang. You know what I mean? He has an extremely big range that he can work within. Like we said, Daredevil, SWAT, Phone Booth. He's been in Fright Night, which is a vampire movie. He tends to be his best when he's either doing extremely small work or extremely big work. I think the middle ground is where he kind of gets it's not as interesting, I would say.
Because I was gonna say for me the start of us really getting into films that maybe aren't as popular is kind of forefronted by a couple, like one movie that I really like from him is The Killing of a Sacred Deer. And I mean, this is a reunion, and this is Barry Keoghan and him, and I think that's almost also why I was interested in this movie. I really like The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I like Yorgos, The Lobster. So I think those are movies that really stood out to me because of Colin Farrell, and ever since then I'm like, anything he's in I want to check out, because I'm like,
he does pick a lot of really good scripts, and I like this conversation that we're having. We rarely talk about actors like this. He kind of reminds me, and I guess it doesn't feel like a great comparison because he's so much younger, like some of the interesting choices that like Adam Driver makes,
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't say Robert Pattinson, because Robert Pattinson is picking some pretty wild stuff, like The Lighthouse, Mickey 17, choosing to be the Batman, but Colin Farrell, I do think he lives in the best of both worlds, where he can be Bullseye or he could be Phase 1 Grindelwald, but he's also doing these Oscar worthy movies, or this quote unquote important cinema, which I do think this movie is one of the more important movies of the year. And I also wanted to bring up the connections that you talked about, right? Because the connections in this movie, not just between the characters, but the directors, the crew, and stuff like that. This movie, the four actors, and then, like I said, the director and the crew, you have a lot of ties to some of the bigger stuff going on in movies, right? So the cinematography. Hold on, I want to make sure I get his name right. It's not that it's a hard name. I just have it down in my notes somewhere. Here we go. Where is it? 1 second. Ben Davis. Okay, right. So Ben Davis is one of the a very well-known cinematographer right now. He's done 5 Marvel movies, right? So he did Eternals, he did Doctor Strange, he did Age of Ultron, he did Kick-Ass, right?
Nice.
But he has also worked with Martin McDonagh before. He did 3 Billboards. He did Banshees, obviously, and I believe he did In Bruges as well. It may have been 7 Psychopaths. I don't have that one for sure, right? And then Carrie Condon, who plays Colin Farrell's sister, she's Friday, the AI voice from Iron Man's suit and later on Spider-Man's suit, right? So I was like, okay, so there's an MCU connection right there. I was like, that's pretty... I wasn't expecting that, right? And then obviously Martin McDonagh with Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell, but then also Colin Farrell and Barry Keoghan because of the killing of a sacred deer. Brendan Gleeson, we covered the tragedy of Macbeth last year, right?
Yeah.
And one of our favorite movies, together between me and you is Ex Machina, right?
Yeah.
That's his son, Domhnall Gleeson, right? And then Domhnall Gleeson and Brendan Gleeson are from some of my favorite movies, the Harry Potter series, which Colin Farrell is connected to because he's Phase 1 Grindelwald. So I was just like, holy shit. I couldn't help but feel like that's why the movie has this like crafted, familial, homemade feeling to it, is because this is a cast and a crew of people who are very interconnected within Hollywood. They're like this crew of Irish people who stick together and are pumping out these incredible movies.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, those are all way different types of movies that you wouldn't necessarily compare. We've talked about during the week in our private conversations about just the crowd of moviegoers and the movies that they'll go to and not go to.
This puts me in a predicament. I'm like, wow, this movie is beautiful. So Eternals is beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, like, cause it's the same guy. It's everybody the same. No, but
nah, man, the CGI, bro.
One of the first things I walked out of though was like this Joker and Penguin. Kind of like it's like a prequel in the same year. You get the same actors here, and it just as a joke, but. It's the fact that even that this is the second movie where Barry Keoghan and Colin Farrell are in the same year or in a film together, and these are actors that, like you said, they're Irish. They all seem to be very tight knitted, but these are all really good actors. These are all actors that are respected and just really have range. And what I was gonna say is Colin Farrell kind of that's kind of what I've gotten from him too. Is maybe his start was a little bumpy, but I do feel like he's gained a lot of experience and has become a better actor the more years he's been. Like, he's a seasoned veteran now,
Yeah, and he's one of those people who, like Keanu Reeves, where you could just tell how much they love and appreciate what they do.
Yeah.
Some actors may act like they're kind of above the whole thing, but I do like just watching his interview with Jamie Lee Curtis where they're going on about each other's movies and their performances. Or even I was watching a Academy Awards interview with Martin McDonagh and Colin Farrell, and just both of them, just going on about how much they love movies and love each other's work. I love when you can tell that they're fans of what they do and they kind of haven't lost that. And I do think that Colin Farrell's personality outside of the movies is kind of another reason why we like him so much. I mean, he had that bad boy persona for a while, right?
Seriously.
I'm sure he's had a lot of, issues, being a young star, but now to see him, like you said, as a seasoned veteran playing like middle-aged men, especially the character in this movie, for a guy who used to play action heroes and hitmen and, do some of these bigger IP movies, to now just be playing like a simpleton of a man who's just very nice is you love to see it.
I felt like he was given before like the B side of like Brad Pitt's roles, and they both can become seasoned actors, but I do think that he's taken that because of the way I just think it's the way he looks. People were like, "You must be the attractive bad guy or something." But now, as he's getting
They're
older,
like, he's too hot to admit that he's
a good actor. Yeah, very good. And then now he's kind of like the same way. He's like, "Well, I can act." He was like, "I can be in cool movies," and I think he's really shown that. And again, it's not like I was looking at his filmography before this. Colin Farrell's been in a lot of movies, so I do think
He's a working man.
His latest choices, like you said, Robert Pattinson, for example, he has those weird picks, but it seems like to be one a year or two, even or one every 2 years or something. He really focuses on this, but Colin Farrell seems to be you can get really good performances out of him in different types of films.
I think what it was, it was that run of The Lobster, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, and also The Beguiled, right? So just a lot of award season film festival buzz for kind of like for every year for 3 or 4 years. So I think that work with Yorgos Lanthimos, the film with Sofia Coppola, that really helped pick his stock back up of like, no, he's one of the best actors of his generation. You think of the Leos, you think of the Brad Pitts, but Colin Farrell is up there. He survived a lot longer than some of his other counterparts.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously we could keep going on about how much we love Colin Farrell.
Why not? No,
yeah, but I think that is one of the driving forces to me for even wanting to watch this movie. He just had a nice year, and it's like the third movie of the year for him, and I really enjoyed the other two. And this crazy because obviously the Batman has like a special place in my heart, but this is the better movie. I like the Batman
shit.
more. Yeah, but this is the better movie. So I just think but then his character in After Yang is really, really good too. So I just think he's really knocked it out of the park this year.
I've begun to watch 13 Lives. That's the Thai cave diving movie. So he was in a fourth movie this year. The only other person I could think of who might have been in more movies this year was Jenna Ortega. I didn't realize she was in like 2 other horror movies that came out this year.
Yeah, they were kind of just brushed
She was in Scream.
upon.
She was in X. She was in the Studio 666.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was 2 other ones as well where I was like, what are these? Like they were just like some straight to streaming movies, I believe. And who knows how old they are? They might have been a movie that was made 3-4 years ago
the
that they're
pandemic
just
or
releasing
something,
now.
yeah.
But Colin Farrell and Jenna Ortega, I'm like, damn, do y'all stop working? You know what I mean?
Wednesday, right?
Yeah, Wednesday, exactly. Yeah, we
Respect
could
it.
go on about Colin Farrell all day long. I mean, sub to the Patreon for Colin Farrell exclusive content.
Yeah. The only other character I definitely want to just bring up is all the animal actors here really well, but Jenny, the miniature donkey, is definitely the only other character here where it's like she's just cute, man.
She was reported as the only diva on the entire island.
Makes sense. She deserves it.
Yeah. Colin Farrell said that she almost kicked him into the ocean.
Nah, yeah.
Because this movie's set in such a beautiful place, and they are really, really right there, just on the edge, like almost falling into the Atlantic on every shot, So we haven't really talked about the movie too much in depth. We'll kind of do a quick synopsis. Let me see. Let me just pull it up really quick. All right. So 2 lifelong friends find themselves at an impasse when one abruptly ends their relationship with alarming consequences for both of them. So like you said, pretty simple plot, right, when you hear it, but I don't think that you could expect how dramatic of a turn this takes. I do think that this has a lot to do with Martin McDonagh's stage background, and also like what you said about these really good actors. So it's a little different for American actors, but a lot of these European or Irish, British actors are classically trained.
Yep.
So you are getting these stage-like performances in a very small, isolated movie that's almost play-like. Martin McDonagh did mention that he was scared that this movie was going to be too much like a play, where it was just like, oh, you just filmed a play. I don't think that that's how it comes across, but I think it's all the best parts of the stage put into a film.
Yeah, I just think even by the way that it starts and we're kind of just thrown into things, Colin Farrell's character is already obviously confused, and you get that within the first 2 minutes of the movie. And I think that's just how a play starts. Like in a play, there's you're kind of already thrown into the middle of a situation, and it really is based off on how well the character can kind of induce to you as the audience of his anxiety or his confusion or whatever. And I do think that the movie seems so tight knit with its runtime that in the get go of the first 5 or 10 minutes, you're really already really invested in this story, already emotionally, in the right track, I would say.
So it's a smart choice to skip the backstory.
Yeah.
Because I feel like at certain moments you can really relate to both characters and maybe why they've come to these conclusions. I mean, this is such a relatable movie. We've all had friends just, kind of out of nowhere stop talking to you. So I feel like it's a theme that probably every single person on earth has had happen to them at one point or another, right? But not with such a tragic turn, obviously.
Yeah.
So I do think it's smart to throw you, like you said, like a play, just throw you right in where there is no biases or judgments going in. Maybe within the first 5 minutes, you think that Colin Farrell is being wronged and that how could he do this to his friend? But, maybe 10, 20 minutes later, you're like, okay, I could see why this is an option. I get it. So I do think that's a smart choice because it doesn't put you in a situation where you have to start rooting for one character. It's not a competition.
And I think what it does really well is it sets up, like I said in the beginning, but as the movie goes, you're interested in finding out what is the reasoning why. That is the driving factor that wants you to watch the film. You're like, well, it can't just be sudden. What is the reasoning why?
Yeah, so I feel like it's okay to jump around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
When you realize that the reason is technically nothing, it isn't a event, nothing triggered this into motion. It's someone having a crisis of identity, and taking it out on a friend. Mm-hmm. So you don't, you're kind of hungry for that. Like, well, what the fuck happened? And then that's where it becomes like this very sad movie. Where you're just like, fuck, this is so relatable. This is so real. Like, he captured a pure human emotion or interaction that happens every day. Yeah. And you just made it. It's like the ultimate feel good, feel bad movie, and I think that's why I liked it so much.
It's good. It tackles such a relatable concept that it's kind of not talked about, honestly. And there is always breakup films, right? That's a film. People love that genre a lot, but friendship breakups are just as hard, and I think they could be just as sudden. And the same way somebody just falls out of love with you, this film really just tackled somebody really being like, I don't think I'm content with what I'm doing with my life. And at first it does seem like you're looking for what is the starting initiator for this conflict. But then when you find out that it is something that, maybe the older that we're getting, we kind of start to understand these selfish moments, kind of like we talked about in the Fablemans, that they seem to be selfish maybe at a certain point, but then later you kind of realize that you can just kind of look out for yourself. And when you're going through those unique moments in life, for films to kind of really reflect that well, and it's such a tight runtime like this, I think is what really knocks it out of the park. Because at one point you're expecting a certain type of film, and then it kind of turned into something, like I said in the beginning, it's deep in its way, but it also isn't. They don't talk about it, they just kind of talk about their feelings out loud, and that's where the relatability comes for the audience.
Yeah, definitely. Getting back to the story a bit, so Colin Farrell would you say he's a farmer? Not his profession is selling milk, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know, right?
I guess I'd say he's like
there's a lot that's not told.
A herder, right?
Yeah, right. So he's a simple man, right?
I mean, yeah, I think that's kind of where
he's
later
nice.
we find out that's his thing. He's
nice.
Just nice, and he cares for everybody around him, and he gets his stuff done.
He could be annoying when he's drunk, just like anybody else.
Yeah, just like a lot of Irish people in this film.
Whoa. And these opinions are not shared by everybody. I don't need anybody coming after me.
I said in this film, which is
made up people.
Which is it's a made up island.
So it's a made up island, so these people aren't real. It's fine.
Yeah, and I end up really thinking that later as the movie kind of goes, and there's these two characters in the bar that will later get to jokes that you have about, but their comedic effect kind of really shows as a regular simple person that lives in an island. He's nice. I don't understand why he's not being nice to you back. It is as simple as that. But that is a dynamic that becomes kind of unique because later Colin Farrell's sister in this kind of brings up a lot of points about trying to evoke this deeper spirit of things when you live in an island. It doesn't really matter.
So Colin Farrell plays. I'm gonna get all these names. Well, I'm gonna get his name for sure wrong. It's like Parrick, but it looks like Podrick.
Yeah.
Right. So like we said, he
they're not real.
the
dude.
film
It's okay.
the film starts with him on a small journey to his friend's house, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna go pick up the homie, dude. Let's go get a drink. It's 2:00, man. We're going to the pub, and he goes and he knocks on his friend Calm's door, right? Played by Brendan Gleeson. Wonderful performance, great character actor. And he gets ghosted. He gets real life ghosted.
Real life ghosting.
which we've talked about this many times before, and I'm sure many other people have. That feeling of being ghosted, but in real life is like, damn, this is me, and I shouldn't do this on the phone.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, this sucks.
And that's where it feels mythological because you're like, nobody does this anymore. Everybody's too shy to be like, do it in person.
He shunned him in real life.
Yeah.
It's like The Office, dude. I shun you, Andy.
Don't care, didn't ask.
Yeah. So there are these two lifelong friends, and they're, according to the people of the island, they're rowing, dude.
They're rowing.
They're rowing with each other, and he didn't know that they were rowing.
I mean, we must be rowing. Yeah. But I was gonna say though, what the film really does well, as the more that you find out too and get into the story, is that they are very an odd couple. They do seem to be different types of ways of approaching life, and I think that that is also where everybody is so like, it's kind of weird that you guys have always been friends. And
like, now that you mention it, fuck, you guys never really should have been friends.
Yeah, you guys are really like the opposite. And I think even as the audience, you start to feel that, and you relate to both characters. Somebody like this, or you are somebody like this, and then you have a sister, which is it seems like right in the middle, unbiased look at how all of this seems to be very pretentious or non-pretentious. And I just can't really stop kind of buzzing about how great this film really is, just based on how well they perform in their roles.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's also gonna win Best Screenplay at
Yeah.
the Oscars, because I'm like, it's so tight, it's so sad, but it's also so deeply funny. It's the type of movie where, I wasn't actually crying, but if I was crying, it would be cut by laughter very quickly.
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah.
like, oh fuck, that was funny.
Just because I feel a little dead inside doesn't mean the movie isn't sad, or
Yeah,
or I don't understand when somebody else is like, wow, that was really sad. To be like, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, but
and it's like we said, it's kind of got this mythological aspect to it. Maybe not one old lady is supernatural.
Yeah. That is something I cashed on. I like that you
Very
brought that up.
Shakespearean, I thought, and I did think it was because these actors, well, at least Brendan Gleeson and Kerry Condon, have this classical training. He was literally in The Tragedy of Macbeth last year. I know that's a film, but Kerry Condon, actually, fun fact, I saw that she was the youngest actor to star as Ophelia in the Royal Shakespeare program, or Royal
Nice.
Shakespeare Theater, when she was like 20, or like 2001, right? So like 21 years ago. So it's not very surprising that when you have actors of this caliber with a script this good, that it's such an easy script, like it just flows so well. It feels like a real conversation, like much more than, I don't know, any of the other movies we saw this year. I would say probably, yeah, man. I mean, I didn't see the most movies I've ever seen in any given year. This was kind of a bad year for me, but fantastic. It's my favorite script of the year. I don't know what else to say.
I will say just because we were talking about it before, and then in terms of movies that really hit home, in terms of its story, we'll probably end up talking about is After Sun, but
After Sun next episode.
After Sun is such a small cast, it's two people, you know. But the fact that every character that does come into the film, we have even people like the priests and stuff like that,
The
coming.
priest, the barkeeper, the lady at the general store, the cop, right?
Yeah.
Just every single person in this movie has a moment to shine.
Yeah, like they perfectly evoke like people who would be in this village. And that's what's like, it doesn't seem like this place doesn't exist. It does seem like it's a place that does exist. And maybe it's the fact that they're all Irish too, but it just really feels lived in. And it could go as far as to the sets that they built here and how it was filmed, and how as an American I'm watching this and this is foreign to me for places to look like this. But I just think it's so lived in, and it felt so real. And for it to have such a large, I would say a pretty decent cast, and for all of them to be in on the same page, I think it's just really a flex as a director, and also as the cast being just so well versed, honestly.
Martin McDonough season, baby.
Yeah, like you said, it'd be like only four, but he know that's why. Like he knows what he's doing. He knows who to work with. He knows the type of chemistry that he needs for his roles. And I think every time he does decide to make a film, it's gonna be something worth watching. Even
Three billboards put him in a weird place because he got the Oscar validation, but then people were not happy that he made a racist cop a likable character, or
Yeah.
really the subject matter of the film. That's what I do remember, is that people were very upset about the film.
Yeah.
And I also just remember, unfortunately for me, maybe I'm just a fool, a lot of Frances McDormand movies kind of just, and it's never her, but just the movies that she's in, I'm just like, these are kind of bland to me, like it really takes a Fargo or a Macbeth or something like that, or one I really like is like Burn After Reading, one of the movies that she made with the Coens. Yeah, so like Three Billboards for me just didn't really do it. So I'm not one of those people that me and you have talked about off pod, where it's like you just wait for a director to stumble so you could be like, they were never good.
Yeah.
You fools. Like I'm the only one who'd realize that they sucked the entire time. But I do think that it's a step back in the right direction of like the types of movies that he's extremely successful at making. Like this and In Bruges are two of my favorite comedies of the I don't know, the aughts, you know what I mean, of the past couple decades. Extremely funny movies.
I think we talked about this relatable to the director having this approach. I believe it was Todd Fields, right? Where we talked about every time he does decide to hop on, he gets critically acclaimed, kind of like Terrence Malick too. Like every time they do hop on, you're like, this guy's got a gift, and then they just kind of, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean Martin McDonough is pretty celebrated, maybe not to the
Average. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we've been saying this quite a bit lately, and it is a little tiny bit of shade. But the 5 to 8 movies a year crowd.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't know who Martin McDonough is, but hey, it looks like Eternals, so maybe give it a watch.
Yeah. It's got Eternals people in it.
Yeah. Whatever. Well, I wonder what Barry Keoghan's. Oh, Barry Keoghan was also in Eternals. I forgot to bring that up.
So he got his bag too, as he deserves.
These connections are deep, man.
I mean, Barry Keoghan, just kind of a sidetrack here, has it is somebody I do look forward to whenever he's in something. It's interesting though, because outside of The Killing of a Sacred Deer, I don't really see him always having a forefront role though. But every time he is in something, I'm like, what a perfect extra character to have in your movie. And I just think it's because he's so well trained. He's been in so many in the short time, in so many movies that I just love. He's a little weirdo from The Green Knight,
Dude, he's worked with a lot of really good directors too already. He's worked with Christopher Nolan. He's worked with Martin McDonough. He's worked with fucking Matt
Yorgos.
Reeves. He's worked with Yorgos. So he's worked with David Lowery. Shout out. Like you said, The Green Knight. Always willing to bring that
Yep,
up.
always.
Yeah, man. Just trying to get back to the movie a little bit. We'll kind of just breeze through the plot. I don't want to spoil it too much.
Yeah.
But these two characters are. They're at an impasse. Calm has decided that he's shunning Parrick, right? And we don't really know why for a while. I'm just going to kind of breeze through this really quick. The reason why is because Calm is having a crisis with his identity. I do think that he's, I would guess a tiny bit older, if not more.
Yeah,
if not 5 to 10 years older than Colin Farrell. But you know, he kind of seems at a different stage of his life. Like you said, these are two characters who are on different paths in their life, and Colin Farrell is happy with, you know, being a nice guy. Like I thought he says at one point, like, I thought that was enough, you know, just to be a nice person. But then, like you said, they're relatable from both points of view. We've all kind of felt like Calm, which is like, what am I gonna leave on this earth? Like, am I just gonna, you know, this kind of hits deep because we're podcasting, but it's like this useless chatter. Is that all we're gonna leave behind? Or I could make this beautiful piece of music. You know, maybe he's a little too much of a dreamer. You know, don't quit your day job just because he made one song. But you know, they're just, so this is the impasse, you know, of like, I don't want to talk to you anymore because I've been wasting my life being your friend. And that's really fucking harsh and rough to hear, even if it is for your best interests. That's rough, dude.
Yeah, you can't. That's what you're talking about, though. But at the same time, you can't invalidate it. You know, you do see where Colum is coming from. It is. I think a dynamic that is really interesting here, though, is it seems like the village already kind of respects Colum for being artistic, and he's always gotten the women, you know, just because he's supposedly, which is player. Yeah, it's just because he's a fiddle player, but it's and
love the fiddle.
And Parik here, after he's not friends with him, is really kind of thrown into to be friends with the person that nobody seems to like, which is Barry Keoghan's character. And I think that's where a lot of the dynamicism come is Colum can easily live another life and be respected and be like, because he's older. I do think people just certainly like, oh, you know, he has a respect that he's warranted. But Parik's character is kind of, because he's kind of drunk and just really nice, it is kind of just seen as a village, you know, he's a village nice person. And the fact that everybody kind of looks at him that way, I think is another realization we get with Parik's character and feeling bad for being just a nice person.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I'll try to breeze through the second half of this plot, right? So now that they are no longer friends, like you said, the whole island is kind of it's island news. Word gets around, you know, not too many people have really interesting things going on, so everybody's kind of invested in this breakup, you know,
the old lady,
and more of that symbolism about the Irish Civil War going on, you know. It's kind of like, what are you guys fucking fighting about? Like, I think the cop actually says, he's like, it's better when we all just hated the English, you know. Like, it was better that way. And now we have these two stubborn men, you know. Parik's not going to stop talking to his friend. He keeps trying his best to, you know, amend the situation. Like, how do I fix this? And, you know, he drives Calm to a very, and this is what I mean about that, like, allegorical fucking Greek tragedy, Shakespearean, whatever word insert here, of like really taking a big fucking leap, you know. Like, you've annoyed me, spoiler alert here, you've annoyed me so much I'm gonna cut my fucking fingers off. Like, does that not feel like some kind of fable or tale?
You know, I couldn't wait for this part, because when I had watched it by myself first, and then we watched it together a couple of months ago when it came out. And when we walked out, even though I knew we both had really liked it, that I did think we like, it's a little over dramatic, don't you think? Right?
No,
like that. He's like that. He's gonna just cut his fingers off because he's like, don't talk to me. But I think that after repeated viewings, and you do understand where the mind frame that it's at, it is also like, if you're gonna keep talking to me, I would rather know I don't have fingers and that I can't play any of this stuff anymore. And I guess this is just how I'm gonna die, because you're literally taking my. So it is an over exaggeration. Whether, I mean, we've gotten some of his bits, what the symbolism in it, he just thought it was funny. So yeah. I mean,
it's really not as deep as everybody's making it.
Yeah,
it's just funny.
So that is the other counter effect to it, that the director simply just said that it was. The funny part is that it is like just a little extreme, isn't it? But I do think, because the script is written very well, and because I agree with you that it is one of my favorite, or I think it should be front runner for best adapted, is those things are kind of they fall in place very well, even though if the director says they're just it was just funny.
So it's sorry to cut you off.
No, I was gonna say I was just gonna say is again it's just kind of a really testament to how well this is written.
So I think that the comedy and the storyline itself is very funny. It's very straightforward. It's kind of simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's that depth of just human emotion and that same thing we talked about with Decision to Leave, that repression of holding in how you really feel and the way it's conveyed by the actors on screen. That feels deep. That feels real. That to me is cinema. You know what I mean? So I do think it strikes a perfect balance of being this serious Oscar movie versus something that's like extremely entertaining and hilarious too. Like especially if you have the subtitles and you're not struggling at all with like what the fuck did they say?
Yeah.
You know, not to be Amera-brained here, but I got to be honest, dude. It's not the easiest movie to keep up with if you don't understand, Irish island dialect.
Yeah, thick accents here.
Oh yeah, boy, thick. Those with 2 C's, dude.
Thick, yeah.
But such an enjoyable movie. I did want to go on with the other 2 characters. We've kind of been dancing around them a little bit. This is the part of the plot where they really do come into play.
Yeah.
As Barry Keoghan and Carrie Condon. So Barry Keoghan is Dominic, the village idiot, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And then Carrie Condon is Parik's sister Siobhan. And what I found interesting is that these two sets of characters are basically mirrors of each other. So Calm and Siobhan are pretty much the same person, the same way that Parik and Dominic are pretty much the same person. They're really once you've seen the movie, you'd be like, wow, would have made more sense if Siobhan and Calm were actually the friends, because they do seem like friend soulmates. They both understand this feeling of isolation, of not really fitting in with where you're from, and kind of like, damn, am I really just gonna die on this island without like contributing anything to the world? No one's gonna remember anything I ever did. And then Dominic and Parik, like, the first night when they hang out and get drunk together, they're like, damn, this is really fun. Like, we're pretty good at chatting, aren't we?
Just chatter.
They really are these 2 characters these 2 sets of characters who kind of mirror each other. So it's like the main story between the 2, but then the 2 big side characters are also kind of going through the exact same thing.
Yeah, they're not Parik and Barry Keoghan's character aren't really, I guess, for the sake of a better word, like cursed to think about what am I going to contribute
Ignorance
to this
is
world.
bliss.
Yeah, and I think the movie just really, not in a mean way, just really explains that the way Parik just loves his animals and the way he relates to everybody and then making them laugh and love that he has for people is what seems to him more important than anything else.
Yeah, and he's not wrong.
No.
Neither of them are wrong. That's the thing. And I don't think at any point does Martin McDonagh kind of make a point to kind of put his nose down at him. Like, people who are like this are stupid. They need to be, you need to be cold. You need to be worried about all of this bullshit, all this bullshit that's affecting my life, even though like none of this fucking matters, dude. Actually, Parik is the one who's right, Yeah. Living in 2022, I would go back to this time, like whatever the equivalent of this time would be to me. I'd like to live in a little cottage with the donkey and just get drunk every day.
Yeah.
That sounds way better
as
than
long
going
as
to
I had
work.
enough. Yeah, I get you.
Fuck a song, bro. Be like, put Return to Monk, dude.
Return
Reject
to
modernity.
Monk. Yeah. And the movie just really, it kind of just really plays with the whole thing in perspective, is where your happiness comes from. And I just was really amazed by how, by the end of the movie, how those things are tied and how things flip and how much growth is in Colin Farrell's character in Parik at the end. I think relatable to being shown how cold the world can be, how you can turn somebody whose pure intentions of just bringing good into this world, they're kind of like, that's not enough.
Dude, this movie is like a coming of age film for a 40-year-old man.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? maybe it's good to not be nice sometimes. I hate you.
Yeah, or it's like that shouldn't be my goal because you prove that no, it doesn't matter. Like all of a sudden you can get up and decide to not be my friend because you don't want to because of some pretentious kind of reason, and or it could be on the flip side he's just like I'm having a midlife. Not even midlife, but I'm just having a crisis in terms of I could be coming to the end of my life and I have nothing to show for it unless. But to him, he's like, it's just useless chatter. I said good chatter.
Yeah, I didn't say useless
it's chatter. Yeah. So to him, it's like life is just this. Why do you want more from this? This is okay.
And the other character that understands, Calm's point of view is Siobhan.
Mm-hmm.
She actually does, a little more spoilers here. She actually does leave the island, and unfortunately for Barry Keoghan, his character Dominic, he loses his life here, and he's, he never leaves the island. He kind of is the warning of like what could happen if you don't get out of here. That sounds kind of misleading, I guess, because once you see the movie, it's one of those dark comedy things where it's like, well, that was a sad accident. I wasn't expecting that to happen at all.
Seriously.
Yeah, but he's kind of a warning of like the life lost without ever having ever actually experienced life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Such a good movie.
I was gonna say, Mrs. McCormick has like a very
she's the weird sisters of this movie.
Yeah, she feels like she belongs in Macbeth. I did just kind of catch on the third time. I'd just gone over it the other times. That she does say there's gonna be a death this month. Maybe
you didn't catch
possibly
that the
two. Like when I did, like obviously I heard it, but I didn't connect as to later as to what the two were. I guess it was like, oh, well, I remember her bringing up a death, but it was like, oh, it's possibly two. And I guess even the fact that it's like possibly two, even in her, it was like, is it technically a human death? No, but it is a death. But I just, that's kind of what I talk about. Like she has this weird premonition type of, the island seems to have this energy, and she seems to be one of the few gatekeepers of it. It's an interesting type of dynamic that you wouldn't necessarily it's not needed for this film, but I think it's what really makes it unique.
When you say a second death but not a human life, do you mean just kind of giving it away, but do you mean Jenny the donkey? Because I took it as, obviously that is one of them, but I took it as the death of the friendship because, spoiler alert, this movie does end with a giant fuck you. Like, you know what? Fuck you then. I don't want to be your friend anyway. And it's not that harsh, obviously. I didn't write the movie.
Yeah.
But it's a giant fuck you at the end. And there is the growth that you're talking about. It's just not the kind of growth that you expect to see in a movie. You're like, wow, they overcame. And at the end, they realized that friendship was better than whatever this bullshit was. No, this is actually fuck you then.
Yeah.
And I love it, dude. That's what makes it so fucking good.
Yeah, the way that it ends that way. And I don't know. That makes me really think about, because I guess that's the way it's just well written. It could be taken in literal. I mean, the death of Jenny is a death of the friendship. I think it just solidifies, I think that's where the funny aspects of it just kind of come in, because nothing really mattered too much until it became personal, until he messed with Jenny. And it is as simple as you take one of the pure life joys that Parik has in this life. Like, well, you've left him without his best friend. He's really attached to this donkey, which the whole movie is kind of just trying to get his sister to be convinced to be, just let her inside. It's okay. She's a clean donkey, So you do end up feeling as the audience the connection that he has for this donkey, and it does end up flipping on its side. And even the way that he likes Colum's dog and the way the dog treats Parik, he seems to have a connection to animals here. And I think that kind of, in all honesty, every character or just people in general that are really gentle to animals for the most part tend to be really nice people. So I think the death of Jenny, whether it could, like you said, it's kind of symbolic of the death of the friendship, just because he took that more personal than anything else, which it is funny. Just in terms of he's like, your fat fingers killed mine.
Yeah, man.
The wee donkey.
Yeah, it's such a funny movie, dude. Such a sad movie. Just the one of the great portraits of loneliness. It's kind of I don't want to say only male loneliness, but that is the lens that it's told through, right? Just isolation, the grieving of a friendship. It's kind of a revenge story, There's a lot of layers going on in this movie that kind of seems like like I said, like if I told somebody the plot, I don't think they'd be that interested. But then I'm like, dude, trust me. Like once you don't judge a book by its cover, dude. This is one of those movies where it's like, if you're willing to, watch it, I think you're gonna be blown away.
I think another thing that I really appreciated here, I think is Shaban's character, her overall actually being able to see how this is all really stupid, because she is honestly in shows and moments that she probably is the smartest person in the whole cast, because it's like talks to Colin, you care about all these stuff, but he doesn't even get the stuff right that he is talking about.
Yeah,
and she has to correct
like us,
him,
dude.
Yeah. And I think that's where it's one of the funniest parts for me is how they drop the F-bomb, how they say it here. It's continuously been saying it all week, but how that scene just where she tells him, you're all boring. Like, you think you're also trying to be this, artsy and you're going to go down in history. Like, you're not. Like, you're all on this fucking island for a reason. So I did really appreciate how the side character that is Shaban, while not having as much runtime, just kind of does serve as a constant reminder of how the tension is stupid.
She's the realest character in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And she's like, no one fucking asked how I feel, by the way. She's like, I feel exactly the same way as everybody else here, but nobody fucking cares what I think, right?
Yeah.
All you boring assholes.
Yeah. So I think, again, to have such a strong performance out of arguably a tied for tertiary role here is just outstanding.
I mean, I think my favorite role outside of the main four has got to be my man. His name's Pat Short. He plays the barkeeper, John Joe. Mm-hmm. And I got a reference here, man. If you've ever seen Wreck-It Ralph, the barkeeper, Tapper from the root beer game, dude, John Joe is Tapper. Like, it's not even cosplay. It's deeper than that, dude. I'm like, wow, that's really him, dude. That's live action Tapper, dude.
Yeah.
We all know. We all remember Tapper from the hit film Wreck-It
Ralph. Come on.
Tapper? We all know it's common knowledge, dude. I'd be surprised if he doesn't have his own fandom page.
Jake Sully and him, right?
Jake Sully and Tapper, dude.
Yeah, come on. Another aspect that I wanted to bring up to this film, that just because we are on the internet, just discussions that I've seen about this movie. This movie has gotten its love, I noticed, which is good. A lot of people have been kind of preaching for it. It's been making its rounds. A very strong Barry Keoghan scene that after you've seen the whole movie kind of hits even stronger. But I will say that I saw a discussion that somebody didn't think this movie had any rememberable shots, which I think is that's just a bad take. And this movie kind of looked again at some of the featurettes that came with it on HBO Max. They built the bar in the perfect spot, and even there's these shots where you get these long roads and just really get to see how nice Ireland is, and I just don't agree with that take whatsoever. Like, I think this is one of the most beautifully shot films of the year, especially in my recent memory. And I think there's a lot of beauty in the shots that are present here. There's some bad CGI, which I thought was funny that you noticed the first time you watched it too.
Dude, we were in the theater. It was one other guy in the theater with us, so I didn't feel so bad about making a couple comments here and there to you. I know the movie couldn't have had the biggest budget in the world, but my God, when the house is on fire, that's probably some of the worst CGI I've seen in many, many years.
He's like the Minecraft house is on fire.
The fire from Minecraft. Yeah. I was like, what is this? You could have spent 10 racks on this? I don't know how much it cost.
I could have drawn it like that.
Bro, I'm pretty sure you could do better on whatever the was it Final Cut Pro.
Yeah, so besides that scene, which I have seen them they use CGI obviously for some of this film, but just the beauty that is this film's themes.
Don't
I
get
think
distracted by the sirens. I can see it in your eyes. Don't get distracted by the sirens.
But I was gonna say to the film to be so emotional and be juxtaposed so well by how beautiful the landscape is, isolation in such a beautiful place, I think is almost, and we always got to bring it up back, is reminiscent of The Shining, and just that how like solidarity at that point really does bring out the most human emotions. And for Colum's character here, it's maybe regret or wanting to leave a legacy, and for Park, it is the fact that you can return back to Monkey and you can just
trying to say is that Colum is basically Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi.
correct,
right?
yeah.
That's what we've been trying to say this entire time, dude. It took us an hour to get there, but
It's relatable.
you know, he's basically Luke Skywalker at the end of his journey.
And that's why it looks like the place in The Last Jedi as well, right?
Well, dude, you know, not to jump too much here, not to jump around from science fiction franchises, actually, but I kind of thought of Caladan from Dune.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, oh fuck, this kind of looks like Dune when they're leaving Caladan. I was like, oh man,
I could see
what are you
that.
talking about? This movie doesn't look good.
Yeah. And so again, just a bad take.
It's time to air out our grievances with individual Twitter users on our podcast.
Yeah, but
That's the right way to use this platform.
By the
for
way,
sure.
no, but I mean,
By the way, at so and so, you paid for Twitter.
yeah, I think it is just becomes, because we're active online, it becomes part of the discussions that sometimes we bring up, because unfortunately there's not too much of a discussion going on with these movies that we see on the social platform too much. Every once in a while we get a breakthrough of certain films that people are really chanting for, and it is always a gamble. There's certain ones that pick up steam, certain ones that just pick up steam for the wrong reasons. So
if you need this movie explained to you in internet terms to get you to watch it, it's the meme of the two guys on the bus, dude. When the one guy's looking at the sunshine and the one guy's looking at the wall and it's all dark.
yeah.
It's pretty much this movie. So if you like the meme, dude, check out the movie.
No, yeah, that's a perfect way to put it.
I mean, right? Is
Yeah.
that not what this movie is? Why even watch a movie, dude, when a meme could tell the same story?
The same story.
Okay, well, I don't want to talk too much more about the movie because I do want people to check it out. I don't want to, spoil every single little thing about it.
Yeah.
Where do you think this is a top fiver or a 5 to 10? I don't want to tease the list too much, but where are you on this?
Oof.
Because I'll go with the fiver. I'm in the 1 to 5 range.
It's technically not in my top 5, but it's my number 6. So it's like right outside of it. But I think the 6 that I have in front of it are all like, 3 or 2 are the ones they're all rated the same. So I think
it's that time of year where we're going to get competitive about art. Huh?
Yeah,
I love it.
But I think it's really hard to not see how this could be somebody's favorite movie of the year. So I think it's so up there. I've watched so many films this year. Top 10 does feel like these are solid. In my top 10, I feel that they stood out for a reason. They do what they intend to do the best, and I think this film overachieves, and I think that's when it becomes a top fiver for me. So in agreement, I will say that it is a top fiver for me.
All right, nice. My final thought on this, I'm looking at a beautiful scene in front of me. I wanted to bring up was the costume design, bro. The drip is insane in this movie.
Yeah.
The little frog when people were like, "Oh, I can't wait for it to be winter so I can really start dressing." And it's like Frog and Toad.
Mm-hmm.
That's this movie, dude.
Yeah.
This has like the perfect. I'm like, bro, I need these sweaters. These things are sick.
They're like they don't live in luxury places, but they dress so with the right word to be you like saying it, Elias. And it's not opulence, but it is just class, or trying to always suit up for something, even though you don't have to. I mean, Parks sitting here with donkeys and stuff, but he's wearing a really nice jacket.
Bro, the
Like,
drip is insane. The older I get, the more I evolve into my final dad form. Every heavy sweater I see, every suit jacket I see, I'm just like, oh, I need that.
these people have pieces, huh?
Yeah.
They don't
The
have
drip is insane,
He's
bro.
like
Is that Ben Salaga?
Yeah, exactly. Ben Salaga.
All right, so I think that does it for us. What do you say?
Yeah. Again, there's not too much I wanted to spoil, obviously, but this is one of obviously easy to say. It's one of the favorite episodes and one of the favorite films for this year of the podcast. So definitely go check this out. I really can't stop gloating enough about this movie, but you also have to just you gotta go watch it and let people know and be like, I hope you like this as much as we did, because we were really excited to do this episode for a while. We knew where it was sitting at. Yeah,
things happen. It's gonna come on streaming. We're like, let's just wait. Midweek episodes, and
yeah.
We're ending the year strong, man. This is the best time of year for movies, especially the type of movies that we like, when we like to push up our glasses and be like, well, actually, this is the best movie I've seen this year.
Yeah, they do it right before all the bad movies, right? It's always the push for let's get these in before the Academy sits in their table and it's like, all right, which films are we going to talk about? And I think this one, I will not be surprised. I think this will be it will be nominated a couple times. I don't know if it'll be in Best Picture, but the fact that it'll get a nomination, I hope. Like I do feel like that's overachieving, and that's cinema, baby.
The movies is back, bro. It's so back, baby. So, like, comment, subscribe, do all the stuff you got to do. To tease the next episode, we have After Sun coming. Possibly, maybe not. Who knows? The Whale, depending on our schedule. What else do we have? We have Glass Onion coming, right? Because that's a Netflix original, unfortunately.
Babylon.
I would love to see that. Yeah, maybe Babylon will get talked about. There's a lot of movies coming out still. We saw Bardo.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think we're gonna do a Bardo episode, but it's definitely gonna get mentioned.
Bardo will not get it, and maybe won't get its episode because we're so tight. If this was any other month, I think the fact that we both liked it enough, maybe it would get an episode. But I think in our top 10, it's currently sitting in my top 10, so it'll get talked about then.
Okay, we can't tease that too much, because as soon as the year ends, because you have to wait to the end of the year. Unfortunately for us, we're not those people who get to see all the movies early. We're the common folk. We're the Parricks of the world.
Yep.
So we got to wait till everybody else can see it. So, that first week of January, you can expect our top 10, 15, 20. This guy Ro likes to skirt the rules. He'll be like, here's my favorite 50 movies I've seen this year.
Be like, I only count 10 there. Yeah.
But I'll try to rein him in as much as possible, and we will have our our list of our favorite movies of 2022. Turned out to be a great year, dude.
Yeah.
I was not expecting it to be. Like when the summer first started, I remember telling you, I'm like, this year's kind of whack. But man, boy, was I happy to be wrong. So, like I said, like, comment, subscribe. Grand Cinema forever. Bye bye.
See ya.